And Matt? Evil, 1810. Okay. At the moment, one of the things I'm trying to do is figure out how we can do what the research would look like to answer this question. My honest answer is I don't know. But if one of us wrote the argument for good in the papers, we said there's two possible explanations, and one of us wrote the first draft of the argument for good, and one of us wrote the first draft for evil. So I was one of those two people. I obviously have a bias towards one direction or the other. Anybody want to speculate as to which one I wrote? Well, actually, in the end, I wound up doing a lot on both. But the one that I wrote first was the evil one. To be fair, it came to me with the good one already written. So I didn't have a chance to be the first one to write the good one. All right. Back to the handout. We were talking about utilitarianism, and then somebody decided that the greatest good for the people in this class is sneak out and pull the fire alarm, and you guys got to leave early. So, are we all clear on utilitarianism? Oh, I never answered the quiz questions. Sorry. Let's see if we're all clear on utilitarianism. Deontologists are the ones who focus on the consequences of their actions when deciding what's right. True or false? False. Good. Chapter emphasizes finding out as much as possible before making a decision. True or false? True. Okay, utilitarians believe in doing the greatest good for the greatest number? True. Okay. So let's talk about consequentialists a little bit more, but not necessarily just the utilitarians. I warn you, not everything we have to say not everything we cover is necessarily actually from the readings. If you're like, I don't remember everything he's saying from the chapter, yeah, I figure if you read the book, then that's good, and it's a good basis to start with, but we're going to talk about stuff that's not necessarily actually in the book. So consequentialists. What other sorts of consequentialists might there be? And this is a call for speculation. Can you imagine somebody whose ethics is based on the consequences, who is not focused on the greatest good for the greatest number?
People who believe that the ends justify the means.
The ends justify the means. Can you give us an example?
I can't think of a real-life example.
Doesn't have to be a real-life example then. Can anybody give us an example of somebody, or okay, go ahead.
Machiavelli.
What's that?
Machiavelli.
Machiavelli. I think, yeah, he would definitely agree that the means justify the ends. I'm not sure, though, that he's actually ethically concerned about the ends either. It's sort of a whole treatise on enlightened self-interest. But actually, now that I think of it, you're right. This is an approach to ethics, and that is one of them. And good, you got one I can think of. So Machiavelli as a consequentialist. I don't believe I have ever said that before in my life, so thank you for giving me an opportunity to say something new. Or I guess I should say Machiavellians, because at this point we don't have to deal with him, but people who subscribe to his worldview. Okay, so just to be very clear, Machiavellians would be concerned about achieving whatever outcome they want to achieve, and they will do whatever is necessary without any qualms, as long as it gets them towards where they want to be. That's it. Consequentialist approach.
Well, like we were just talking about, the companies who are in other countries maybe doing bad things, I feel like they think that the end goal of profit and of providing jobs wins over maybe the pollution that they're doing at that moment.
Okay. So let's pick on your gold mine for a minute here. We're the gold mine. We are all the board members of this gold mining company, and we've decided that we're going to go down to the Dominican Republic and mine for gold because, there's gold there, and that's what we do is we mine gold. So far, this does not feel like a really ethical decision. But then we look at the chemical runoffs. We look at, is it strip mining? Okay, well, let's call it my dad comes from Montana where they strip mine for copper, so basically they rip the tops off of a whole bunch of mountains, and now they've got the copper out, when you drive through there, it's just like these hideous, mutilated corpses of mountains all over the place. So we'll throw in the strip mining as well, even if they don't do that with gold. But on the bright side, they're providing employment, gainful employment. Maybe they're providing medical insurance for their employees. Maybe they're even building, maybe they built a new hospital. They're building nice roads. The city has a much nicer, whichever city is closest probably has a much nicer infrastructure as a result of these people doing their stuff. Now, part of that is going to be purely self-interested because they're going to have to send some people down there to run the place. And the nicer they make the city, the more willing the people are to go down there and live in the city. Both because now it's a nicer city, and because when they're down there, they can be like, yeah, I'm with the company that did all these nice things in the infrastructure, and people are more likely to like them. If you were down there working and they're like, yes, I'm with the evil company that is ripping up your country and making all the people work at slave wages, people wouldn't like you, and then you wouldn't want to stay. And so for more than one self-interested reason. So the question could be, are they doing this because, while they don't particularly care about the environment, they can't really in the mining industry, they care about the people? Or are they doing it because it's good business practice? Now, as it happens, some of my other research, I think it's one of the ones that it's on the, that's listed on the syllabus. Turns out that it actually is really good business practice to do stuff like take really good care of your employees and provide infrastructure and so forth. Those sorts of things tend to have, you don't even have to wait long term. It's a pretty short term payoff, in terms of recovering your investment. So a Machiavellian running a gold mining company in the DR would probably do, assuming it's a smart Machiavellian, would probably do exactly what we've heard described. That does not actually mean that that's the worldview being done here, but it's consistent with that. Okay. What about other consequentialist approaches that are not utilitarian? As we established with the burning building thing, a lot of people here have priorities other than the most possible people could be affected. Oh, and I apologize. There was a point that I wanted to make that I never got to make because of the fire alarm, so I'm going to backtrack slightly to make this point. Let's say that I could do two different things with the rest of this class period right now. And I'm pretty sure that half of you would be happier if I did the one, and half of you would be happier if I did the other. The only example I can think of is really stupid, but I'll use it. So the one case, I might say all the female students get an A in class participation, and the other way, it's all the male students get an A in class participation. The rest of you get F's either way. So at this point, I'm really annoying half of you, and the other half of you are thinking, well, that's kind of nice. Probably I'm annoying the ones of you that I'm annoying much more than I'm making the rest of you happy, especially if you think that you're doing pretty well on class participation anyway. Why am I getting it based on my sex as opposed to the actual participation? At least that's how I would be thinking about it if I were a student. But setting that aside, like I said, it's a dumb example, but it's a pretty clear one. I have no way of actually measuring how much happiness or unhappiness I'm creating by doing this. I have to speculate. So let me introduce you to one of the silliest concepts ever to come out of philosophy. And they've been doing philosophy for thousands of years. They've had plenty of opportunities to come up with silly stuff. But this is just about the silliest thing I've ever heard of coming out of philosophy. It is a concept called the util. It's a unit. So you could have a utilometer, which you could use to measure how many utils are taking place. Does anybody is anybody here think that they've got a pretty good idea what a util is? A unit measuring how much energy, like a joule. That's not JWEL. What are we measuring? Happiness. Yeah. Okay. So I've got my utilometer here. There's an ad for that, I'm gonna. Okay, the one is 37 utils, the other one is 42. I'm going with the 42 utils decision. Wow, that's easy. It's one of the things that I hate about utilitarianism. But yes, we measured it. how? Did you measure how happy you're making people and how, it's, okay, sorry. So, assuming that you don't actually buy into the whole util thing and that you don't carry a portable utilimeter, I haven't actually checked it. There might actually really be an app for that. But setting that aside, there's other approaches where you might still care about consequences, even if you're not necessarily focused on the greatest good for the greatest number. So we've got the utilitarians who actually really want to do the best for everybody. And then you've got Machiavellians who want to do what's best for themselves. What other consequential approaches are there? Could there be? Yeah.
Socialism?
Socialism. Today is a day for new things for me. I'll put socialism up on the board, and you can explain to me how it's a moral perspective. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like it's not based on individualism. So if you make all the decisions in the government to satisfy the greatest number of people, you don't have division of classes.
Okay.
It's kind of
Okay, but on the other hand, you are making it based on what's good for the people in your country. Not for like, you know, hey, it would be really good for the people in the next door country if we sent them all of our food, let's do that. You're focused on what's good, you know, the government is still focused on what's good for the country. And maybe, you know, if it has an allied nation next door, it could, you know, there's an earthquake, we're going to send some food type stuff, but you take care of your people in your own country first. I think it's relatively consistent with how many socialist governments respond, although there is also the whole international aspect of socialism. So I guess, depending on where you're getting your socialism, if you go back to Marx and Engels, then you've got socialism as an international concept, and we should all agitate for make the whole world be one big socialist entity. In the meantime, however, we've got some countries that have tried socialism, and some of them did pretty well. For example, Sweden is a fairly socialist country, and they have a very high standard of living. And then we have had some examples of socialism that, I'll use blue to indicate that this is a subtype. National socialism has had some really negative ones. So my characterization of we're going to take care of our people, it'll be like utilitarianism, that we're only taking care of our people, has had some really horrible outcomes. Does anybody know what I'm talking about when I was referring to National Socialism as a beige or? Yeah, go ahead.
Nazis?
Nazis, that's what it actually stands for. In Germany, you spell socialism with a Z instead of an S, so the Nazi was the first two letters of each one. It was a National Socialist Party. We're going to run the government based on what's best for the Germans. And if you're not German, by our definition of German, you are in a world of pain. So one of the things about some of the consequentialists is if you draw a line around some people and say, we're going to do what's best for these people and not other people, that can look pretty darn evil. Yeah.
What about like Lenin, who killed hundreds of thousands of people, and in theory was doing it to create a utopia, was trying to.
That's what he was telling people he was doing.
I mean,
But-
I'm kind of like saying like Lenin, not Stalin.
Nice distinction. Yeah. Okay. So Stalin was basically a psychopath with the government behind him. Lenin. Sorry. You're right. Thank you for clarifying, because I was thinking Stalin, even though you said Lenin.
Yeah,
I can't-
like the means are the same, but the intentions, at least in theory, were.
Well, I can remember Lenin basically killing anybody who got it. If you're in the way, then I have to kill you. I guess if you've got that particular moral perspective, you know, I will kill anybody I need to kill in order to make this country great. That's a very slippery slope. I will grant you that Lenin and Stalin had slightly different moralities, and there is a distinction there to be made. You'd probably be safer living in Lenin's Russia than in Stalin's Russia. At least with Lenin, you would, if you try really hard to toe the line, you're less likely to be randomly killed anyway. Would be my take.
Like my point is like, he was, in theory, if Stalin had never had him killed, then at least what he was claiming was he would have eventually reached a stable socialist Russia where everyone is where is on the right farm, working the right crops for the best
Sure.
interest of the country. And
The thing is that's been tried elsewhere, like in Cambodia. They decided that the best way to have a proper socialist, I believe this is Cambodia, please correct me if anybody knows I'm getting this wrong, but if I remember correctly, that's where Pol Pot was, yes? And his idea was that people who had education were the reason why a socialist country couldn't work, so everybody who had an education was killed, and then the rest of the country was pretty much good. So you're looking at me funny, and one point is that you obviously do have an education, so this would be a bad idea from your point. Anybody who's had an education is probably not going to subscribe to this perspective. But this was a guy who did not have an education. He'd been mistreated his whole life by people who did, and obviously the people with education are evil. Let's kill them all, and the country will be good. And again, I am like 90% sure it's Cambodia, but I'm not 100% sure. So if anybody actually is sure or wants to double check, please let me know. Anyway, coming back to this. Machiavellians, you could argue that another way to characterize it is a very enlightened self-interest. I am totally going to focus on what's best for me, but I'm going to be smart about it. So, I have the opportunity to steal. I'm not going to steal because even there's only a 5% chance of me getting caught each time I steal. If I keep stealing, I'm going to get caught. So I'm going to be the guy who never steals because everybody who steals thinks they're not going to get caught, and most of them do. Not because it's wrong, for any reason other than I might get caught. And plus, those occasions where I don't steal and people find out that I had the chance and I didn't, word will get around. I'm an honest person. I'm not. But I can make you think I am. The utilitarianism, they may be annoying and they may have some really silly things like utils, but on the other hand, they really do want to do good for everybody. So there may be flaws in their moral reasoning. There may not be. But as long as you really are thinking about everybody, then you're not excluding people and saying these don't count. It's okay to do whatever you want to those people. So the National Socialists, it's like there's people in our gang, and then there's everybody else. We will take care of people in the gang, and we will take advantage of everybody else. Scary guys. If you don't go all the way to murdering people, it's a lot easier to get away with this kind of a mindset. And I think there are people out there who have that kind of a mindset to varying degrees. There are people I know of who they care about their family. I care about my family. It's a good thing, right? But they only care about their family, and if you're not kin, it's okay to shoot you. I have kin who have this attitude. We don't talk much, but they're out there. And obviously, it's much better to be related to somebody who's willing to kill anybody he's not related to and has a gun. But it's better. If you're going to be around him, it's better to be related to him. But best to try to persuade people not to have that perspective and to be related to the ones who